Chapter 12, A Planetary Alignment, June 4th, 2024. A planetary alignment brought new hope for those who believed in the energy of the universe. Some could feel the shift within and around themselves. Crystal woke with an optimistic belief things would be better. That was until she was feeding the animals breakfast and discovered Biscotti's dead body in the dog's yard. Her daughters heard her cry out, and the tears could not be withheld by anyone. The night before, Crystal had given Biscotti a hug and kiss goodnight in the garden. Why did he leave the garden? Biscotti was in a safe garden paradise, yet he chose to go out to the predators. Whether he thought it safe to walk along the fence line or willingly jumped into certain death was unknown. He was buried in the garden between the trees. It was inevitably clear. The planetary alignment would not magically make our world a better place, and it would take our consistent efforts to make peace and security a real possibility. Crystal began working on completing the Sustainable Communities proposal. An outline was created to show the extent of the all-encompassing goodness created by allowing and assisting in a global effort to create sustainable lifestyles for the individuals that wish to live in harmony with nature. Canadian Government and Peoples of Canada. Policy Proposal for New Dominion Lands Act. Canada needs to reinstate a New Dominion Lands Act to aid in the housing crisis. By using science and alternative building techniques, we can build sustainable communities and enter a new era of homesteading for the 21st century. Canada has 2.2 billion acres of crown land, some still unexplored, that can offer a home, a job opportunity, and a purpose for all Canadians alike. By being a steward of the land, Canadians can step up to help as many acres as possible with eco-friendly efforts like reforestation, removing flammable ground cover, planting food forests, and rewilding our Canadian forests. By offering a lifelong lease on the land, Canada can offer true peace and security. These new sustainable communities offer an opportunity for the Government of Canada to fully reconcile with Indigenous people. By offering an equal position of representation, Indigenous elders can take the lead in ensuring new development is in harmony with the land. Requiring Indigenous leadership also requires the training of more leaders, so education systems would flourish with all Canadians offered an equal opportunity to learn sustainable living by Indigenous principles. This policy needs to be adopted globally as a standard right of living, that every person has the right to grow food, drink clean water, and have space to live and build a home. Just as the best time to grow a tree was 10 years ago, we too need to act now to meet the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. We're using twice our Earth's resources and need the opportunity to live sustainably. We need the global guided efforts from the scientists that dedicate their lives to the study of every aspect of our world. The new Sustainable Lands Act would offer an individual the minimum requirement of 1 acre to homestead per individual in the family. Within a 3-year time, an eco-friendly sustainable homestead must be built. The individual is given the opportunity to be responsible for more acres beyond their homestead with financial compensation, creating universal income availability in exchange for work our planet desperately needs now. The responsibilities of a steward of the land include, but are not limited to, removing invasive species, planting approved biodiverse species to encourage growth in areas requiring reforestation, removing dense flammable ground cover, assisting with repopulating endangered species, i.e. building bat boxes, hanging throughout forests, endangered species breeding farms in the wild, easing the strain of predator overpopulation, reporting data of plants, wildlife, criminal activity, finding new resources and submitting samples. By offering Canadians a chance to work for Canada itself, we are creating an opportunity for all people to meet their basic needs for survival. We can offer a universal income that individuals work for by doing good things for the environment and the communities they are helping build. By offering all people an opportunity to be a steward of the land, we are encouraging all people to grow roots deep in the Canadian soil. thereby instilling a greater respect for the land we rely upon for all living things. Foreseeable ripple effect on Canada. Finance. The Ministry of Finance could assist this effort by easing the taxes for individuals who enter the Steward of the Land program. Building materials, fuel costs, and taxes could be reduced to incentivize new alternative building techniques in an effort to meet the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. The new carbon tax could have a purpose and a deadline for when we have created enough sustainable homesteads to offset and reduce current CO2 production. Non-profit organizations whose goals are to help people or the environment could also aid in this direct effort to provide a self-sustainable home for those in need. Few funding programs have ever had such a direct effect on the Canadians the most in need in such a powerful way. We are not bandaging a broken system. We are creating a new one with only positive effects on the current system. Agriculture and agri-food. The Ministry of Agriculture and Agri-Food would greatly benefit by seeing new sustainable, eco-friendly farms create local food sources, encouraging a circular economy to meet the healthy food needs of all Canadians. By allowing self-sustainable communities freedom to plant crops using new permaculture methods, Canada can reduce its CO2 emissions with more agriculture production using no-till farming techniques. We can also reduce global CO2 emissions by reducing transportation required for non-local food dependencies. Public safety, democratic institutions, and intergovernmental affairs. Canadians would experience a new era of reduced crime and poverty as individuals would be given the freedom to work for themselves and the land to produce the necessities of life. Many crimes are committed due to survival, and by removing the survival catalyst, crimes committed could be more clearly punished as being an act against humanity rather than personal survival. By encouraging individuals to enter the new system as a steward of the land, empathy education would also help reduce the likelihood of future violence. Public services and procurement. A new system to support the sustainable communities would be required to organize a large-scale, eco-friendly integration with nature. This new system would not affect any current system and therefore remove any fear of change by those who do not wish to participate. This new system would require representatives from the various categories affected by human habitation. The land, ecosystem scientists. The water scientists. The wildlife biologists. The Indigenous Peoples of Canada, elders. The Government Ministry of Forest Lands, Natural Resource Operations, and Rural Development. The leaders of this new system would be chosen to represent their interests and would be offered the same base wage as a steward of the land, thereby reducing costs and encouraging proper leadership based on principle, not wage. Foreign affairs. Canada would be taking the lead on a global incentive to live sustainably. There are many countries globally that have habitable land to create sustainable communities, and by encouraging a global effort to create eco-friendly housing, much of the world's needed migration could occur. There are global efforts to control the people that wish to relocate to a better, safer place. Governments are backlogged with paperwork trying to sort through who is deemed desirable or in dire need, while the people die waiting or die trying. The world needs to create safe, self-sustainable communities for these individuals so that we may direct mankind's effort to live and work in the best way possible to help our planet. Fisheries, oceans, and Coast Guard. With individuals easing overpopulation in urban centers seeking habitation inland, the coastline would also see an ease on the effects of overpopulation. Fishermen previously reliant on fishing as their only source of employment would be able to continue fishing sustainably in lakes, rivers, or seek new employment adventures. Emergency preparedness. With search and rescue incidents on the rise, Canada needs to take emergency preparedness seriously, and the Sustainable Communities Incentive is the best means to do it. Government programs like Adventure Smart aid Canadians in being safe outdoors to reduce incidents. Yet, with so many tourists and new immigrants to Canada, it is crucial that an outdoor safety education be mandatory for the future safety of people and wildlife. Emergency preparedness includes more than what to do in the wilderness, though. Encouraging Canadians to collect and store water is essential to survival. Encouraging Canadians to grow food, safely process and store is essential to survival. Encouraging Canadians to build alternative housing that does not rely on the electrical grid is essential to survival. Sport and physical activity. While it is most valued that the Government of Canada encourages sport and physical activity for the sake of healthy well-being, in our current state of emergency, it is essential that our focus of physical activity is directed towards helping others in our country. Sport is a useful tool to bring people together for a common shared purpose. It is also a useful tool of entertainment. Please help support a global effort to create sustainable communities for mankind by temporarily directing the efforts and resources of sports to the physical activities of building sustainable housing. For the sake of every Canadian affected by the state of emergency that is the housing crisis, please help encourage people to stop playing games and help build something of the highest value, a home. Indigenous services. There is a disconnect in the Indigenous communities that was created by our forefathers that needs to be corrected. When Europeans moved to this land, they did not assimilate to it. They forced others to assimilate to their ways. Children were stolen from their families and taught to forget their languages and their ancestry. People were punished and killed. The Indigenous peoples of Canada need our help because we need their help. They hold the knowledge of how to live in harmony with the land, the wildlife, and the water, yet many have forgotten their ways. Many live in a state of survival, trying to meet their basic human needs of clean water, healthy food, a warm shelter, and space to live. The Sustainable Communities Initiative offers these Indigenous peoples that wish to participate an opportunity for employment as leaders of newly formed communities. It encourages individuals to learn about their heritage and step into the role they should have originally had when Europeans arrived in Canada. We need to respect the elders of the Indigenous peoples of Canada and learn their ways so we may all live in harmony with nature. Innovation, science, and industry. Canada could take the lead in a new era of innovation, science, and industry. Outdated farming techniques forced farmers to continue to invest in machinery that supports unsustainable agriculture. We could take the lead in creating innovative machinery that is cost-effective and works in harmony with the land. Ideas are spreading globally of new innovative farming techniques that Canada could take the lead on creating with science and industry. With the shift in population from urban centers to sustainable communities, a gap is left in the employment market to be filled by new AI innovation. We know from mental and physical health studies that the work created by the Industrial Revolution is detrimental to people. Production is increased at the expense of a human being's health, and in our society we have deemed this to be unacceptable. We value human life and do not believe that a person's health should be placed at risk due to the needs of a business. Canada needs to use its innovation, science, and technology to create a better, self-sustainable living option for all people. International development. By taking the lead at the United Nations, Canada can aid in international development by creating a global system that represents our Earth's resources and the species reliant upon it. This is the greatest support Canada can offer to the world that doesn't cost taxpayers in aid funding. People love helping others, but when aid is clearly mismanaged and not helping the people in the end, it is wasted tax dollars. Supporting a global sustainable community initiative helps the world see that it is possible and that Canadians are hard-working, resilient people. Leading the world in an effort to live sustainable lifestyles would create a global ripple that can only begin in a country that is in the global spotlight. The average Canadian emitted 15.22 metric tons of carbon dioxide in 2022. We can do better. Labor and seniors. There is an abundance of labor in Canada that is an unused workforce. During the Russian Revolution, menial unnecessary jobs were created for the sake of limiting unemployment. Busy people with a purpose tend to commit less crimes and live happier, healthier, optimistic lives. Being a steward of the land offers anyone the opportunity to work for themselves, their communities, and their country. As long as they are physically capable, the majority of Canadians and new immigrants are capable of the physical demands of yard work, gardening, and construction. The individuals who are incapable due to age, mental, or physical incapabilities are the people most in need of new sustainable communities. Examples in Europe show that special communities built for people with special needs, like Alzheimer's, help them live happier, healthier lives. Many of the mental and physical health issues that plague Canadians can be resolved by living a more natural life in harmony with nature. Veteran Affairs, National Defense. Many Canadians give their life in service of their country. This sacrifice of life, time, mental, or physical health leaves veterans in a state of emergency, requiring help from the very country they served. Every day these soldiers are let down as they continue to fight to survive and jump through the various hoops required to get the immediate help they so desperately need. These individuals, no matter their personal impairment from their sacrifice, are capable of being a necessary part of sustainable communities. They have skills, knowledge, and abilities that could help build, educate, and protect the new communities. These individuals were once a part of something bigger than themselves and cared for by the military. These sustainable communities create a safety net to help care for our veterans in return for their sacrifice. Canada has many predators that have gotten out of control preying on innocent people. Whether it be closing the grizzly bear hunting in BC, allowing open drug use in BC, improper management of those with extreme mental health issues, or corporations' insatiable greed of natural resources, predators have reached an unsustainable number for the carrying capacity of our environment. The veterans that gave their life for the service of their country would be offered the equal opportunity to be a steward of the land, to be enabled to build their own home in a new community rather than being sent away from home, to be enabled to be a protector of the very community in which they live. That is when a soldier is truly protecting their homeland, to be enabled to help teach others with firearm safety and how to protect themselves in case of emergency, to be enabled to put down their weapons and pick up their gardening tools. Transport. Building new communities in remote location creates new innovative challenges for Canada. New building innovation of reusing materials and eco-friendly solutions can be used to create safe pathways from existing highways to new sustainable communities. Having communities in rural locations opens more opportunities for electric car charging stations and creates a source of revenue for the communities. Creating small rural communities gives an opportunity for today's youth to grow up at a slower pace of life. This particularly affects youth with learning how to drive. With the majority of Canadians living in urban centres, the challenge of learning how to operate a vehicle safely while managing unprecedented traffic has become a challenge that today's anxiety-ridden youth struggle to manage. Small rural communities offer an opportunity for youth to learn how to drive in an environment of nature and wildlife, thereby creating a greater respect for wildlife, reducing collisions and unnecessary deaths. Export promotion, international trade, economic development. Sustainable communities work towards the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals, creating a circular economy for Canadians. A circular economy is an economic system designed to reuse material in consecutive production cycles, reducing waste to a minimum. The sharing economy and cooperative models created within the scope of the sharing economy are virtuous examples because they extend product duration or maximize the performance of a product over its useful life. Energy and natural resources. The energy and natural resource sector would experience an unprecedented future, with less demand on the current energy grid and more alternative energy being able to feed into the existing grid. Canada will be able to move into a future of clean energy. While we are most fortunate to have oil and gas reservoirs in Canada, we will be able to save that resource for generations that may require it in the future. Clean energy affects the earth and all species reliant upon it. If we expect future generations to work towards a healthy future, we must teach them it is important to do so through our own actions and choices. By creating new rural communities, undiscovered natural resources will become available and create local sources of employment for sustainable communities. Environment and climate change. It is beyond a doubt the biggest impact Canada and the world could do to assist the environment and prepare for climate change. We may never be able to do anything to help or affect the climate change that is currently affecting our world. We can prepare for a certain future of uncertainty, though, by organizing mankind's migration away from areas deemed unsafe for human habitation. Using data from scientists, we can pick rural locations that would have the least impact on the environment. Immigration, refugees, and citizenship. Every year, millions of immigrants, refugees, and workers seek freedom in Canada. These people are leaving the only home they have ever known, in hopes of building a better future for themselves. This is evident in the low-income job positions they are willing to fill for a chance to be Canadian. Yet when they arrive, they are met with a great hatred from Canadians also seeking help and aid and relief from the government they rely on. The housing crisis affects everyone, and Canadians are turning against each other, fighting for a chance to have a home. Article 25 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights states, "Right to a standard of living adequate for your health and well-being. We all have the right to enough food, clothing, housing, healthcare for ourselves and our families." We as a country are not meeting the basic needs of Canadians as protected by this Universal Declaration of Human Rights. By creating sustainable communities, we are offering these individuals a chance to build their own home and learn about their new land. Diverse communities would aid in integrating newcomers and spread global gardening and construction methods. Newcomers would be appreciated for the hard work ethic they contribute to their new country. Employment, workforce development, official languages. Employment opportunities would shift, offering a physical challenge to Canadians' minds and bodies. The construction sector would flourish with new opportunities for sustainable buildings. New communities would offer tradespeople an opportunity to build a home in the rural area in which they work. This in turn would create a greater respect for the environment while working in rural locations, as individuals tend to not poison the soil they grow their family's food in. Housing, infrastructure, and communities. Sustainable housing affects housing, infrastructure, and communities the most. Individuals choosing to leave urban centers to be stewards of the land would create more housing availability in cities. New alternative building techniques would become available without the current laws in existing municipalities blocking necessary progress. By allowing individuals to build a home on a self-sustainable homestead, you are allowing that individual to create wealth. That individual now has an opportunity to sell the work that they have created and have a step on the housing ladder if they choose to move to an urban center. Health. Reports indicate that 1 in 10 Canadian households experience moderate to severe food insecurity due to economic constraints. Almost 2 in 3 Canadian adults are overweight or obese, and over a third of Canada's food supply is never eaten. Canada's Nation Pathways document. We are having a food crisis and a health crisis in Canada. Sustainable communities help solve these issues. Our current living restrictions create sedimentary lifestyles that are killing Canadians. Living species require food, water, shelter, and space. Humans need space to be healthy, and by opening the Crown lands of Canada to sustainable living, you are allowing people to help themselves get healthy. Urban centers would only be affected positively as more spaces opened up in hospitals and walk-in clinics for the individuals needing immediate care. In 2018, a study from the Royal College of Physicians studied the effects of gardening on the mental and physical health of patients. They concluded that exposure to plants and green space, gardening in particular, is so beneficial to human health that it could reduce a significant amount of pressure from our healthcare system if health professionals encouraged their patients to spend more time in nature. It also concluded that healthcare professionals should pressure local authorities to increase open spaces and the number of trees, thus also helping to counteract air pollution and climate change. Rural economic development. Rural economic development would flourish as new sustainable communities blossom, creating a new era of rural economic development. Women, gender equality, and youth. Sustainable communities support women, gender equality, and youth as offering all an equal opportunity to build their home and work for a better future. Youth in particular are disadvantaged in the housing market as new training wages cannot support the current housing costs. Youth do not have a hopeful future that hard work equals a home, and therefore have lost a desire to work hard for their future. We cannot complain that the youth of today are weak compared to our pioneering ancestors, if not given the same opportunity as our ancestors. Our society has realized hard work only equates to a minimum wage, and a minimum wage can be acquired through a variety of means. Hard work is painful, but that pain should also come with the reward of survival. The Canadian government is responsible for the well-being and financial care of thousands of foster children. These children are Canada's children and should be raised and treated accordingly. Organizations like Tim Hortons Foundation offer funding to aid underprivileged youth being able to experience camping outdoors. We do this because we recognize that children need to spend time in nature, connecting to the real world around them. If we recognize children's camps and nature retreats to be healing for people, then would we not wish for our children to grow up in such a way? What some consider disadvantaged youth should be our mission as a country to raise and educate in the most real way possible. The Canadian government once removed children from nature and placed them in schools to assimilate. May we as a people reverse this costly historical error and return the children to assimilate with nature. Diversity, inclusion, persons with disabilities. Sustainable communities offer the utmost diversion and inclusion for all Canadians and newcomers alike. With Indigenous leadership and immigrants sharing their agriculture and construction techniques, Canadians can learn diversity through education and experience. Not all persons with disabilities face physical barriers to work. Many individuals simply have a crippling anxiety from the current state of affairs. They cannot function in the industrialized world they are currently forced to bear. Many persons with disabilities are not only capable, but willing to work for themselves and the land in exchange for the financial assistance already provided. Canadian heritage. Canadian heritage is a unique blend of Indigenous peoples that walked this land and the pioneers that tried to control it. Both were hardworking, industrious people. There are aspects to our heritage we commonly forget or choose not to acknowledge, such as hunting and trapping. We are approaching an era where most people in our society willingly eat meat without acknowledging the living animal it was. People are losing their respect for life. A great division occurs between those who exercise their freedom to eat meat and those who are adamantly opposed to the death of animals. The individuals who are raised with a respect for nature and choose to harvest their own food are met with death threats and vile hatred. This ignorance of Canadian heritage needs to be recognized and dealt with. An individual who chooses to live self-sustainably in harmony with nature makes a conscious choice when eating meat they choose to harvest. An individual who chooses to eat farmed meat is not making a conscious choice. They are limited by price, availability, and sometimes a chosen ignorance about the life and welfare of that animal. Canadians should have the choice to live in sustainable housing and experience the unique blend of living by our forefathers and Indigenous peoples before us, free from the hatred and terrorism of others differing in opinion. Citizen services. Citizen services would be responsible for maintaining records for Canadians. A requirement of an outdoor education and empathy training would be required for individuals seeking to be stewards of the land. Too many lives are lost and ecosystems destroyed because individuals have no empathy for those around them. To help ensure sustainable communities are predator-free, stewards of the land would need to show a required level of empathy for the world. This training could include the use of observing mirror neurons in individuals. Those who fail can re-educate and try again as many times as needed. Citizen services are required for maintaining records. Justice and Attorney General. Justice and the Attorney General can recognize there will always be individuals who make poor choices under circumstance. There will always be individuals with no regard for others. Yet it is guaranteed if we give Canadians a chance to work to meet their life's necessities, there would be less crime. If we provided homes in the wilderness for those afflicted with addictions and mental health issues, there would be less crime. If we ease the overpopulation in urban centres, there would be less crime. Canada's current Liberal government is aimed to reduce gun ownership by Canadians in an effort to reduce gun violence. Removing firearms from citizens is not the answer. Throughout time, we have been proven that if the citizens lose their ability to protect themselves, you have left them vulnerable and completely removed their free will. Sustainable communities requires individuals to learn firearm safety for their own safety and the individuals in the community around them. A firearm is required by citizens to dispatch wildlife for the purposes of safety, euthanasia of hurt wildlife, or hunting for food. Families, children, and social development. The Ministry of Children and Family Development's primary focus is to support all children and youth in British Columbia to live in safe, healthy, and nurturing families and be strongly connected to their communities and culture. The ministry supports the well-being of children, youth, and families in British Columbia by providing services that are accessible, inclusive, and culturally respectful. End of quote. Sustainable communities would support all children and youth by providing safe, healthy, and nurturing communities for families to call home. Children would grow strongly connected to their community and diverse cultures present. By offering parents an opportunity to live in a rural community where they can bring their children to work in the garden, we can diversify education to include real-life skills not currently taught. Mental health and addictions. Many rehabilitation and mental health wellness centers are located in the wilderness because of the recognized healing power of nature. It is known that our human bodies have the ability to heal themselves. We can also heal our minds, and we are the only ones capable of doing so. With help and guidance, individuals living in sustainable communities will be given the chance to heal their mental health and addiction dependencies. These people need our help, and nature is the best medicine. Small business. Our society simultaneously encourages small business while choking out the small businesses with unreasonable taxes, impossible commercial rents,